Honor and privilege to deliver the Dr. Roger Tomlinson Memorial Talk at the S3 User Conference today. Dr. Tomlinson is regarded as the father of GIS. He was the one who first coined the term Geographic Information System, GIS. He had created the first computerized GIS system in the 1960s while working for the Canadian government. After 60 years, the GIS system he had created continues to be used by the municipalities across Canada for land planning. He was basically a geographer. He had the passion to keep himself updated with technological developments and to apply technology to create meaningful information products. The combination of these attributes led him to combine the art of geography and the science of computers and to create the path-breaking field of GIS. The early period of computing had established the capabilities of creating, storing, and processing data that answered the questions of what and how much. These were in the form of textual and numerical data. Dr. Tomlinson had added the dimension of where. The addition of the fourth dimension of when, that is the temporal or time series data, resulted in further expanding the power and reach of GIS. The fact that GIS today supports and impacts every conceivable field of human activity is a testimony of his vision. The science of where touches us in many ways in areas so wide-ranging as earth science and space technologies, agriculture, education and healthcare, town and country planning, energy, infrastructure, and transportation. On this special occasion, I pay my respectful homage to Dr. Tomlinson. I take this opportunity to convey my regards to Dr. Jack Dangermond, the founder of S3, who had a close friendship and a long association with Dr. Tomlinson. It's no exaggeration to say that we owe most of our knowledge of GIS to these twin visionaries. Over the last half century, S3 had become the market leader in geospatial technologies. GIS has advanced significantly over the last 50 years, both in its capabilities and spread. It has come to be known by the broader term of geospatial technologies, encompassing several related technologies, including remote sensing, GPS, IoT, geotagging, and telematics. GIS, which was traditionally two-dimensional, had extended to the third and fourth dimensions. Geospatial technology is best described as the tuple XYZTA, with the temporal dimension having been added to the 3D models. With the development of artificial intelligence, the new stream of Geo AI is advancing rapidly. The breadth and depth of geospatial technologies have both increased several-fold. Let me give a quick overview of these dimensions. Today, there is no sector, field, or team that the geospatial technologies have not touched. This is because all entities exist in space-time and all events happen in space-time. The capability to describe, measure, and process data relating to the entities and events in space-time adds significantly to our power to manage these more efficiently and effectively. Let me share a slide to show the length and breadth of GIS applications. You can see a wide range of sectors that is impacted by GIS today, starting with energy, agriculture, infrastructure, urban development, rural development, transportation, public safety, health, and environment. A number of examples are given across all these sectors. Let me just elaborate on two of these sectors in the interest of time, not all the 9 presented here, but 2 of them. Let us take the case of energy. So in the energy sector, we can do several different things using GIS. For instance, mapping of the energy infrastructure consisting of the generating stations and the national power grids enables the complex real-time systems to be managed more efficiently. Secondly, the depiction of power transmission and distribution network, the substations, and down to the transformers permits a 24/7 management capability that enhances the uptime and responsiveness to all issues of maintenance. Coupled with the mobile workforce management capabilities, it can act as a powerful tool to enhance performance and accountability at all levels. Thirdly, when applied to the input side, GIS can result in optimal use of natural resources like coal, biofuel, and water in the generation process. This reduces the cost and makes the operations eco-friendly. Fourthly, when it is coupled with IoT, geospatial technologies can help monitor the ambient levels of pollution in the vicinity of the thermal power stations and enable us to take remedial steps. Being able to visualize the energy consumed versus the revenue collected in any part of the distribution system enables the distribution companies to take up targeted drives to minimize non-revenue power. Any improvement in this area through technological innovations, including those involving GIS, would result in huge gains, considering that the T&D losses accounted for 20.66% of the power generated in India in 2018-19, as per the estimate of Central Electricity Authority. Adding a layer of AI on top of GIS data would unlock immense potential in the energy sector by enhancing the predictive processes for optimizing the demand-supply equation. Let me talk a little bit about the applications in the area of agriculture. Agriculture is a pivotal sector of the Indian economy, and so is it for majority of the developing countries. To meet the food and nutrition needs of the global population by 2050 requires a huge multidimensional effort. Technologies can play a significant role in meeting this challenge. Since agriculture is invariably linked to land and to the efficiency of its use, geospatial technologies play a critical role in all aspects of the agricultural life cycle. I quote a few examples out of the hundreds of use cases practiced in the use of GIS in agriculture. Firstly, the efficiency and accuracy in the management of land records forms a solid foundation for the consistent growth of the agriculture sector. Cadastral survey has come a long way from the days of chain and cross staff to the electronic total stations, and now to the use of DGPS through the establishment of course network or continuously operating reference stations. Last year, the Survey of India launched a program to establish 200 course stations in Maharashtra, UP, and Karnataka with a plan to scale it across the country. GIS is inherently connected with the operationalization of course for creating the most accurate maps of each parcel of agricultural land. Secondly, the monitoring of crop life cycle with the use of satellite imagery enhances the planning abilities not only at the macro level but also at the hyper-local level to benefit the farmer. Smart farming, precision agriculture, and precision irrigation cannot be thought of without a heavy dependence on several geospatial technologies. Pest and disease prediction and management is another area that can be transformed using geospatial technologies, and especially the interpretation of satellite imagery. Considering that 14% of the crop in India is lost due to pest attacks and diseases, technological intervention can make a huge difference to the economy of the farmer and to the national economy. Supply chain optimization is critical for efficiencies and lowering the cost of agricultural operations throughout the life cycle, both on the input side and on the output side. GIS and GPS play a significant role in these critical field operations. Disaster management is another area where geospatial technologies play a vital role. Geospatial technologies are the heart of the operations relating to mapping of the disaster-prone areas from the time a cyclone or a flood is predicted, developing related models, preparing appropriate contingent plans, assessing the extent of damage to crops, and undertaking relief and compensation activities. Several state and central government agencies in India have been gainfully deploying geospatial technologies. For instance, the government of Odisha has used these technologies to provide parcel-level location-specific advisories on crop health management to benefit 150,000 farmers. As I mentioned, the GIS and geospatial technologies are applied across several other sectors like infrastructure, urban development, rural development, transportation, public safety, health, and environment. And in the interest of time, I would not be touching upon these. Let me talk a little bit about, having talked about the breadth of GIS applications, let me talk about the depth of these technologies. Identify the areas of where the breadth actually, where the depth actually matters in the application of these technologies. By depth, I mean the maturity, sustainability, and ease of use. A few overarching characteristics are essential for a technology to be considered deep. I mentioned here the key requirements of the technology from the perspective of depth. By depth, we mean several characteristics of the technology which are shown on the slide here. The first and foremost is the development and adoption of open standards and open specifications. And the second one is availability of user-friendly tools and templates. And the third one is the flexibility for the developers to work in various languages. And then the interoperability with the rest of the ecosystem is an extremely important aspect. Deployability, whether on premises or on cloud, customizability of the technology through open APIs and SDKs. And last but not least, scalability in volume, variety, and velocity. These are all the attributes that add depth to the technology so that it is sustainable in the long run. So the upcoming field of Geo AI is very, very interesting. And let me spend a few minutes on this subject. Geo AI involves building intelligence into geospatial data. The use of geospatial technologies across the entire agriculture sector is indispensable. So I want to exemplify the use of Geo AI with a specific initiative that the World Economic Forum has undertaken recently. This is the Center for Fourth Industrial Revolution of the World Economic Forum, which is currently implementing jointly with the government of Telangana and Agriculture University of the state. The initiative is called AI for AI or AI for Agriculture Innovation. Started in August 2020 on a public-private cooperation model, AI for AI has been architected in association with over 70 members of the industry and startup ecosystem. A portfolio of 9 frameworks and 30 use cases has been designed to address the gaps through a set of technological and policy interventions. The vision of the AI for AI project is to transform the state of agriculture by deploying emerging technologies in a scalable, inclusive, and sustainable way. and these include the geospatial technologies. Let me give a bird's eye view of the landscape of AI for AI at this point of time. So while the slide is busy, containing several elements here of the project. This is a combination of a set of frameworks and a number of use cases. As you can see, there are 9 frameworks that create the enabling environment on the top, and 30 use cases that demonstrate value at the ground level, which are in deep blue here. So while geospatial technologies are used in most of the frameworks and use cases, the 9 use cases I'm going to highlight in this slide, they are substantially dependent on the geospatial technologies like macro crop planning, pest prediction and control, smart micro irrigation, drone-based application of fertilizers and pesticides, smart insurance and yield prediction, smart markets, traceability, and logistics. So I would like to briefly mention 4 use cases of GeoAI identified in the AI for AI project. These use cases enable better understanding of the crop conditions at various stages and support the data-driven interventions. So the first one relates to prediction of sowing windows. At the beginning of the monsoon, especially in dryland agriculture, it is extremely important to time the sowing of the seed in such a manner that it optimizes the yield. The ideal time windows for specified crops are predicted intelligently, interpreting the soil moisture and surface temperature conditions across the entire pallet area. Undertaking sowing operations during the recommended window would enhance the potential yield. And GIS plays a very, and spatial data, satellite imagery data plays a very significant role in this with the application of AI. The second use case relates to assessing the crop health and moisture stress, calculating the NDVI and NDWI values, and again using the satellite imagery and its interpretation. This would enable the farmers to take up distress irrigation whenever the crop is facing a moisture stress. The third use case relates to estimating the crop zone area versus the normal area so that the government agencies are able to assess any abnormalities in terms of the area grown versus the normal and then take appropriate interventions in those areas. The last use case I would like to mention is one of assessing the harvest readiness of the crops. This enables, with the help of GeoAI, this enables us to assess when the crop can be harvested to give the maximum yield at the parcel level. And so this would help not only the farmer, but also it will inform the logistics supply players and enable reliable estimate of the market arrivals so that the planning can be done better in the post-harvest stage. So let me touch upon the policy environment that exists today in the country in the area of geospatial data. The geographical information has been subject to several restrictions, basically on considerations of national security. However, With the advancement of geospatial technologies, especially the remote sensing technologies, the relevance of such restrictions has reduced substantially. As a result, the Government of India has recently taken a radical reform by issuing the new guidelines on geospatial data in February 2021. These guidelines have significantly deregulated the creation, acquisition, sharing, and processing of geospatial data. Only the data with a resolution of less than 1 meter for horizontal and 3 meters for vertical dimension attract the restrictions. The deregulation is expected to accelerate the growth of geospatial products and services in all sectors of the economy and unlock significant economic potential. On the anvil is the draft National Geospatial Policy 2021, which has been published by the Government of India in its draft form and attracting and inviting public comments. So while the policy itself is extensive, I would like to touch upon the salient features of this policy. This policy advocates the establishment of geospatial infrastructure at the national and state levels. It lays emphasis on geospatial education at 3 levels, namely the workforce level, the professional level, and the expert level. Then a mechanism for certification and registration of the surveyors who are trained on the geospatial technologies. So adds to the workforce already available with the government and increases the efficiency of the field operations significantly in capturing the geospatial data at the ground level. Then declaring geospatial data as a common good is a very important step so that the data can be used for several areas of public interest. Developing and promoting standards is a very important aspect for interoperability. And establishing course network, which I mentioned earlier, is another component of the policy. Lastly, there is an immense need for collaboration between the public and private sector through appropriate PPP models, which also the draft policy lays emphasis on. Lastly, let me touch upon a few critical success factors which are essential for the growth of the geospatial industry in the country. First and foremost is the need to focus on the capacity building, on which, of course, the draft national policy also lays emphasis. So the huge potential that the industry has and the technology has can be realized only if we have the requisite capabilities at all levels. We need to use online learning tools and by creating the appropriate quality content in this space. The second is adoption of an ecosystem approach, which involves moving from system thinking to ecosystem thinking. Traditionally, we have been used to developing systems, but now we need to think big in terms of the ecosystem, which consists of not only the public and private sectors and NGO sector, but also the center-state relationships are also taken into consideration in developing such an ecosystem. At the national level, the ecosystem approach is fast catching up, and the Ministry of Electronics and IT, Government of India, is coming up with a framework for India digital ecosystem architecture, which is a kind of a reference model for all the ministries and all the sectors to adopt and move towards developing digital ecosystems rather than digital systems. The third aspect is about geospatial data exchange, which is again critical to success. The latent potential of data can be unlocked fully if we have a trustworthy mechanism for exchange of geospatial data, whether free or for a cost. The National Data Registry, or the NDR envisaged by the Geospatial Data Policy, is a step in this direction. The NDR seeks to host the catalog of datasets and services, metadata, feature definition, application schemas, code lists, and persistent identifiers for streamlining provision of data supply chains for governance, businesses, and communities. The role of NDR can be complemented by establishing a geospatial data exchange, which acts as a trustworthy bridge between the providers and consumers of geospatial data. It promotes easy discovery of data, quality assurance, trust, smart contracts, data rights management, and above all, forms the basis of equitable access to geospatial data. And another critical success factor is open innovation to be encouraged and promoted, because it is necessary for the exponential utilization of the power of the geospatial technologies. For this to succeed, we need to establish appropriate frameworks of public-private collaboration to ensure sustainability, agility, and efficiency to be built into the geospatial data systems. I would like to conclude this speech by creating the concept, mentioning about the concept of geo by design. Today, we have well-established concepts like security by design, privacy by design, being observed in various sectors. So, in the specific context of geospatial technologies, geo by design is an idea which needs to be explored. In other words, geospatial technologies need to be built into all stages of the product, starting with planning, going on to design, implementation, operations, and maintenance. This would be cost effective and avoid unproductive work in retrofitting GIS into an already implemented project. This geo by design principle assumes more significance in the context of the digital ecosystem approach, which I described before. Let me conclude my talk by thanking Sri Agendra Kumar, President of Esri India, for inviting me to deliver the Dr. Roger Tomlinson Memorial Talk as a part of the annual user conference. I am sure the presentations and the discussions during this conference would take us closer to the vision of leveraging the power of the geospatial technologies for the betterment of humanity. Thank you and wish you all the best.